Welcome to the fourth episode of the Hornet Hour Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Berry. This month's episode will cover the Bryant School District School Board and their roles and responsibilities. We will also talk with our very own head of HR and legal affairs to explore some of the things that go on behind the scenes that keep our school district running. First up on the podcast is this year's board president, Dr. Tyler Nelson. Dr. Nelson has been part of the Bryant School Board since 2018. Dr. Nelson is an internal medicine doctor at the Bryant Medical Clinic. Dr. Nelson, thank you for coming on the podcast with us today.
No problem. Glad to be here.
So what I'd like to start out with, you've been on the school board since about 2018, and you currently serve as board president. But tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I was born and raised in California, moved to Arkansas when I was 10 to Van Buren. That's where I graduated high school, went to Hendrix for biology, and then to UAMS for a med school and residency. Married, have 3 children, currently a 9th grader, a 10th grader, and a senior, and work at Bryant Medical Clinic, and then just spend time with the family when I'm not at work.
Wow. You keep a busy life going, don't you?
At times.
At times. So as a school board member, you're volunteer leaders and public servants who, spend many hours serving our students, parents, staff, community, going to events. But why do you serve on the school board?
I think originally I just got on the school board just so I had a voice for my kids, and so and then also just to know what was going on with the schools, and then just to be able to maybe provide some input and just to support the school district. I just feel it's important for people to be involved in one way or another with their kids' lives, and so I thought this was a good idea and a good way to be involved with their school life and just the life of other kids in the community.
Do your kids ever ask you questions about being on the school board, or do they try to get you to change anything?
Not too much. They everybody has their gripes and concerns, and I hear about them. My family's not excluded from that, but not too much. Not too much.
That's good. So, as publicly elected leaders, how are school board members selected normally?
So typically, if a spot comes open, there's you have to go down to the courthouse, put your name in, get a.
Is it like one of those sign-up sheets or?
Yeah, like a petition. Sorry.
Petition, yes.
Couldn't think of the word. Petition, and you have to have a certain number of signatures to get on the ballot, and then everybody that's on the ballot, it goes for the vote. Sometimes if we have a board member retire or step down, or in my case, we had a board member pass away. Before his term was over, the board will actually appoint somebody for the remainder of that year, and then the election process takes over after that year. So in my case, I was asked to join the board. I served just a little under a year and then had to run for the last year of his existing term. Mm-hmm. And then when that term finished, I had to run again. So I actually had to run twice in about 12 months. So not a huge deal, but a little bit of paperwork and things.
If I remember correctly, I think you submitted a video to be on the board, didn't you?
Yes, I was actually in Belize on a medical mission trip.
Wow. When
the interviews went on, so I was able to submit a video for the interview process since I wasn't in the country.
Wow, that's awesome. What are some other roles what are some other roles that you do as a school board member or other school board members do inside the school district and in the community?
In terms of school board, I know probably most people think of it as, we talk about the curriculum and those kind of things, but and probably to be real honest, when I first got on the school board, I really had no idea what all was involved, but a ton of financial information gets handled by the school board, and you have a fairly steep learning curve trying to figure out where all the different funding sources come from and where they can go to. Just because we have a certain amount of money doesn't mean you can spend it on whatever you want, and so that took a little time to learn. We do some of the other things we do outside of just the regular board meetings. We do breakfasts for the staff that we just are finishing up this week. Try to get around to all the departments and all the schools. Of course, we try to support as much of the athletics as we can. And then we this month, was actually School Board Appreciation Month, we were able to have a meeting out at Bryant Elementary School, which was the first time I think I'd been there for a meeting. So it's kind of good to get around and see some of the schools and do those kind of things.
That's awesome. What other trainings do you guys receive as school board members? Do y'all go attend trainings? Do y'all go out of state to do training? Is there stuff in state you do? Tell me a little bit about that.
So a little mixture. We have to have a certain number of hours every year and of continuing education. And you can do that there's several conferences in state. There's national conferences, which we've been to a couple times, which gets you quite a few hours. And then there's quite a few just virtual education sessions you can do as well to get hours. And so we all kind of do a mixture of those. Like I said, the last few years, I think we've gotten a majority of them at the national conference. But again, there's state conferences as well that you can get.
Awesome. What are some challenges that you have faced as a school board member throughout your several years of being here?
So really the year I came on the board, we were just finishing the rezoning, which was interesting. I was on the tail end of it, but I know it was difficult on some of the current board members at the time. And I remember thinking how tough that was until COVID hit. So COVID was probably the biggest challenge, just with all the regulations and rules that the federal government was handing down, the state government was handing down, things we were trying to follow and do to stay out of trouble with them and try to keep kids in school. It's a huge challenge, and probably weren't as successful as we wanted to be all the time, but I think overall we did fairly well considering. But that was a challenge with just, like I said, all the rules and regulations, the masks, the quarantines. That was a rough time. I think the second was construction. We've done a lot of construction.
Yes.
And that's certainly time consuming. And just as we thought we were done with construction and things were going to calm down, that's when COVID hit. And so it kind of went from one thing to another. So it has been nice so far this year. It seems like a little bit more of a regular year. So far, so good.
Yes.
But definitely some challenges the last few years, for sure.
So what are some celebrations that you have experienced as a school board member?
So, every month we have some recognitions, and it always it's always fun to see what kind of awards kids and students are getting, teachers are getting. We've had teachers with local awards, state awards, national awards. Recently had Spring Hill Elementary get Blue Ribbon School, big deal, big national award. We've had administrators get their PhD, Dr. Dissinger, Dr. Berry. So we see the teachers that keep continuing their education, and I think that's always fun to see. Had some great sports teams, which we've got, gotten to see. But the big thing is just getting to see the students and the teachers succeeding and doing well for Bryant and representing Bryant well.
Well, that's all I have for us today, Dr. Nelson. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. In our next segment, we get to talk to Bryant's in-house legal counsel, Jeremy Lasiter. Mr. Lasiter is the Director of HR and Legal Affairs and has been with Bryant going on his 8th year. Before coming to Bryant, Mr. Lasiter was at the Department of Education for Arkansas as General Counsel. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Lasiter.
Thank you, Dr. Berry. It's good to be here.
I start off with everyone. I like to get a little information about who you are and kind of explain your roles here at the Bryant School District, because you kind of serve dual purpose here.
Yeah, I serve as our HR director and our director of legal affairs. So I have a couple of different functions that fall under my responsibility.
Oh, man. A hot topic in Arkansas right now is national teacher shortage. What are some of the reasons that you are seeing, as your role in HR, why we are having some of those teacher shortages?
Well, teachers have always been overworked and underpaid. I mean, that's been the case for a long time. And as far as I'm concerned, you couldn't possibly pay teachers enough. But there are always those pressures to help students achieve academically, and I think for various reasons, teachers don't feel as appreciated as they should. And then you had the pandemic come along, and that's something we've never experienced before. And I don't think any of us have to be reminded what that did to all of us in terms of ramping up the stress in our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the culmination of all that's burnout. And when you get burned out, you can easily lose focus of why you were called to the profession in the first place. And I think that that's happened to a lot of teachers, unfortunately.
Yes, that is definitely true. We feel that here in our office. We experience burnout. We work a lot around here. Can you tell us a little bit about what Bryant is doing to help kind of retain teachers and keep them around?
Well, the short answer to that is everything we can think of. I mean,
Yes.
We're always trying to come up with ideas to do that because no one teacher is the same. There are different motivations for a lot of them. And money isn't everything, but we always try to make sure that our teachers have competitive pay when compared to other districts our size, and that they feel appreciated in that area. We want also teachers to feel like they are an important part of the team, and that's why we have the new teacher orientation. That's why we have mentoring program and PLCs, and we try to focus on relevant PD opportunities. Then you have our principals, school board, and PTOs. They try to do a good job of making teachers feel appreciated and that sense of belonging. And there's always more that we can do, but that's primarily it. Another tool we try to use is outreach. We want to get the word out about the good things that are happening in our school district. I know you and Ms. Cheryl are a big part of that. People spend all their time watching national news. They'd have a warped sense of reality about what's happening in our schools right now. And so our teachers and staff are the best I've ever seen. When I walk the hallways, when you walk the hallways, you see children who are happy and safe. They're learning and they're achieving amazing things, and that public needs to know about that. I also go to job fairs to try to recruit new teachers and to promote what we're doing here, because there's a lot of good news to share about our school district. And then finally, there's some relatively new programs through DESE that would allow our classified employees to obtain a teaching license and move into the classroom as classroom teachers. And so we've had several classified employees who are interested in taking that step, and we're going to help them do that.
Yes, the State Department is doing their best right now that they can to help us get those teachers in the classroom. And even as a classified employee myself, there's different licensure pathways to get to the classroom from there. And I know around here we are all about one team, one heart. That's our motto. That's what we, as employees of the district, try to. We're together in all this and everything we do, and even our little model this year, I think, was together for tomorrow, I think, or something like that. And we're really trying to keep that in mind as we work day to day to keep the kids in school, keep them happy, keep them learning. So it's really a part of it.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that Bryant offers to someone who is looking to get into the teaching profession?
Whenever I talk to a teacher that I'm recruiting, we talk about pay. We talk about the outstanding teacher retirement system, which I believe is almost second to none out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I primarily focus on the fact that when you work at Bryant, you really are, like you said a little bit earlier, Alex, joining a family. They're going to have mentors if they're new teachers. They're going to be part of regular PLCs. They're going to work with principals who support and care for them. And they're also going to work in a community that supports its schools. I think that's very important. You don't always find that. And I'm not aware of very many communities that support their schools the way the community supports ours here in Bryant. And so when we recruit a new teacher or a teacher from another school district, we don't want them to come here and stay for a year or two.
Right.
We want a teacher to come and be part of a family and a community, and I think that's one of the strong selling points that we have here in Bryant.
Yes, Bryant. I mean, everyone we hire, and anytime I walk down the hallways, they're always like, "Good morning, how are y'all?" You can walk into a teacher's PLC and actually see them doing the work and wanting to help these kids learn. It's quite an amazing process we have here in Bryant, and they really do work as a community around here.
Well, and before I worked at the Department of Education, I had very little background in public education, and I think that the average person on the street really has truly no idea what all goes into educating a child on a daily basis, and the work that teachers put into that. It's not just getting up in front of a class and teaching. There's a lot of prep work that goes into it. There are a lot of other issues that surround it. There are PLC work. I mean, it's very intentional. and they certainly have my respect.
That they do. One of our strategic goals is to make sure we recruit diverse and a premier workforce. That way we are giving our students the best that they have for them to succeed. What steps have we taken as a district to, hire more diverse applicants?
Well, as you know, the state of Arkansas as a whole has an extreme shortage in the number of diverse teachers, teachers of diversity. So what we have to do is cast the broadest possible net. We do that through a lot of different ways. But with around 240 school districts and open enrollment charter schools, the competition for those teachers is, as you can imagine, is really keen. So I try to go to college job fairs, many of which are located in colleges and universities with extremely diverse student populations. I try to not only recruit those in particular education programs or those who are education majors, but I also try to make other majors aware of the possibilities and the rewards for becoming a teacher, since DESE does have these programs. What I found is a lot of students in job fairs who might be, a biology major or a business major, even a history or political science major, they don't really give a lot of thought until right around time of graduation what their job's going to be. And when you start talking to them about the possibility of them getting a teaching license and teaching, that's something that they're all familiar with, obviously. I mean, we've all had great teachers. And so I try to also bring them into the fold as well. One of the other things that I've learned, though, too, is that the best way to recruit a diverse and premier workforce is through word of mouth. Our best recruiters, and I don't want Dr. Walters to know this, she might fire me, but our best recruiters are other administrators, teachers, and employees. I mean, they all know of promising teachers who are just about to join the profession or outstanding veteran teachers at other school districts. And we need our current employees to help bring those individuals into the fold. So, the answer to the question is we've just got to cast the widest possible net. We have to be intentional about how we focus our recruiting efforts, and then we have to make, benefit out of the contacts that our existing employees have with teachers who are doing a great job so we can bring them in.
Yes, and our teachers and our administrators that are outside of our office, they tell our story. They tell the story of the district. They literally talk to everyone, and we want them to talk good things and recruit that way, which is amazing.
Every year, we get teachers and we try to track, how they became aware of Bryant schools, and I go to all these job fairs and I talk to hundreds and hundreds of students every year, but it's usually someone who knows a teacher here,
yes,
friends with a teacher here, or his family with a teacher here, and that's good, because those folks will end up not only being good at their jobs, but they'll stay.
Speaking of job fairs, we have one coming up soon. Can you give us a little information about that?
Absolutely. So we're excited to be able to have our first in-person job fair in a while, since I think before the pandemic. Those were incredibly successful in the past. Our job fair this year is going to be on Monday, February 27th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at Bryant Middle School. As I mentioned, these in-person job fairs have been well attended in the past. It's good for us because we don't share the spotlight with anybody. I mean, these teachers or prospective employees are coming here because they are interested in working at Bryant. We always have a good turnout. Our school and district administrators are always on hand to conduct interviews on site. And with those in-person job fairs in the past, we always come out of there with several, job offers for prospective teachers and employees. And several of our current employees have come to us through our in-person job fairs. And so we can't wait to meet new educators who might want to join our team.
It's going to be awesome. If y'all want any more information, we're going to have that link posted on our website at bryantschools.org with all the information. And I believe there's probably a registration form if you want to register early and upload your resume. We love to get that in our system and love to see all of y'all there. Mr. Lasiter, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to do this. This was good information for everyone to hear.
Well, thank you, Dr. Berry. It's my pleasure.